Hi guys.
Hi guys. I don't
Welcome
know
to
who we're talking to.
Oh, it's all right. This is a recording, so we're talking to the audience, we're interacting with them. Welcome to In Conversation with ATF. My guest today is a writer, a producer, and an all-around nice guy, who I've had the pleasure of knowing for the past nearly 2 years, actually, because he helped me with my Bill Scott documentary. My guest has written for many shows, including Gummi Bears, DuckTales, Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, TaleSpin, Darkwing Duck, Goof Troop, Quack Pack, New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, and he's also written for stuff like A Goofy Movie, Casper, A Spirited Beginning, Casper Meets Wendy, Archie's Weird Mysteries, All Dogs Go to Heaven, the series, and he was also the head writer for Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad as well, and also Archie's Weird Mysteries. And wow, he also worked on Pac-Man and the Ghost Adventures, which is
Oh
everywhere.
yeah, I wrote a couple of those, yeah.
Wow, that's so cool. My guest is Jym Magon.
Hey, hi
Welcome.
everyone.
Hello. It's lovely to see you. Lovely to just.
I can change the background if you want
Oh
something
no,
less.
it's okay. It sounds
Oh, okay.
that's nice like that. I like it. Um, so Jim, how are you? Because it's
I'm
been a
fine.
while since we
We're
spoke.
all we're all fine, the whole country is fine and California's fine.
Well, that's great to hear, definitely. Because I can't remember when we last spoke. I think it was for another interview for my documentary, maybe.
Yes.
I don't know. Yeah, it might have been for that. Oh no, no, it was the premiere. It was the premiere from my documentary last year. Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, that was such a fun night. To be fair. So how are you, Jim? How is everything going on in Jim's
Every
world?
everything is nice. I I had nothing to do today except talk to you, so this is the highlight of my day.
Oh, well, I appreciate that very much, Jim. Bless you. Um, so I'd like to really kick things off by, where it all began. So, Jim, where did it all begin? Your script writing, your
You
story
mean
writing.
with the Big Bang and moving
Yeah.
then billions of
What
years
about
and
the Disney records that you did with like
oh yeah.
Corey and Paris and everything like that? I'm intrigued to
Yeah.
know more about them.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. You really want to know all this stuff?
Of course, of course. I've
Okay.
been intrigued. I've seen all the pictures on Facebook.
Okay. Well, that's fine. That's fine. I it actually started um I was a disc jockey at my local college in Illinois, and it pumped out a whopping 10 watts or something. It was horrible. And we would just play records and talk a little bit. And then somebody said, "Oh, you're very funny. Why don't you write something funny and we'll do it as a radio drama, a radio play?" I said, "Okay." So I wrote 5 episodes of a thing I called Green Nerd Theater. And I wrote them and I cast them and I directed them and added the music and sound effects and basically turned out these little like 10-minute comedies. And I didn't think anything more about it. And then years later, a fella who was a roommate of mine, Gary Kreisel, said, "I'm working now at Disney record division, and we need someone to produce some children's records." Well, the children's records are exactly the same as doing radio shows. You have to write it and cast it and direct it, add sound effects and music. And so they hired me because of my vast experience in radio. So that's how I got my start at the record company. And you sure you want to hear this? Oh, your audio's out. I can't hear you.
Whoops, I've accidentally muted myself. If I didn't want to know all this, I wouldn't have asked you. But I'm asking
Oh,
you,
okay.
so
Okay. So I did lots and lots and lots of story records. I started with Little Golden Books from Western Publishing.
yeah,
I
yeah, I've heard
redid
of them.
all of the Disney classic movies, and then a nice thing happened. Not many people had record companies, so it turned out that we made deals with different studios to do their story records. I don't even have one here. They're a little 7-inch book and record, and there's 24 pages in it. And I had to pick all the photographs, and I had to write the copy. So I ended up doing the Black Stallion. We did all the Star Wars records, Star Trek. I did all of the Charlie Brown specials, and then we did deals with American Greetings and Hallmark. So I did a lot of story records, and to the point where I wanted to pull my own head off. But the nice break from that was we decided, let's do some music records. So, okay, I've never done a music record. So we did children's favorites and Splash Dance, and the big one was Mickey Mouse Disco, which sold 3 million copies. And
Wow.
we did a lot of we did a lot of projects. So I was at Disneyland Records for 8 years, just churning out records. Um, I'm going to confuse you for a second. Do you mind if I confuse you for a second?
Yeah, I don't mind at all.
Hold on.
I love surprises.
Oh, you have surprises?
I love surprises. I
Oh,
wish I
you
had a
love
surprise.
surprises. That's
Well, the
fine.
surprise I can reveal is that I have a voiceover demo now. Yay! And everyone gets to know that, so I will be putting it out publicly. Yes!
Yay. I love me. Okay.
I love myself too. Yeah, so that'll probably make that public when I'm allowed to. So if you
Hold
want to hire
on.
me for voiceover stuff, let me know.
What? What?
What? Oh, it went off for me as well. Hang on, wait, can I do
Oh,
this?
yeah.
Oh wow, oh that's cool. Oh, so it's like basically like a raise your. Oh, what? It took me to the. No,
I
there we
am I am trying to change my background, and
Okay, I know how you do it. You go. Okay, so where you've got your webcam on, it should have like a And we're back. There we go. Let's have a look what's going on.
I'm trying to get this cord to reach a bit. I don't know if you can see that, but in the other room are all my gold records.
Oh wow!
I can't get the camera any closer, so
Okay, we can see
anyway,
them from here. We can see them from here.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll let you fly back to Hawaii real quick. Wow, that only took 5 seconds to be fair.
Okay. Now we're back.
Yeah, we're back indeed. We're back indeed.
Yeah, so I did 8 years at the Disneyland Records, and people used to say to me, "Isn't that a horrible commute to drive all the way from the San Fernando Valley to Disneyland every day?" And no, it's called Disneyland Records, but it isn't at Disneyland.
Imagine if it was.
What'd you do?
Interesting. I just turned a lamp on in my room because it's starting to get dark outside. It's that time of the summer where it's like 10 o'clock at night and then it just starts getting dark now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know what? I've been there.
Yeah.
I was up in I think somewhere far north in Scotland, and was out walking at night in the summer, and it was still light. It was like 9:30 at night or something.
It's beautiful right now. Like, I can just tell. It was really lovely. It was actually a really lovely evening this evening. Like, it was just like the sun was out and it was hardly any clouds in the sky. It just made me feel just happy, to be fair. Yeah. So, about the Disneyland Records, right? You actually got some great people to do the voices on them.
I just like to contradict everyone.
I know, it's fine.
Yeah. Yes, I
Yeah.
did. I was very fortunate that when I started at Disney, I didn't know anybody except Gary, and I met a few people at the music company, but I didn't know how to go about getting voice talent, because I needed people that not only could do many different voices, but that could mimic. Sorry, that could mimic famous actors, Mark
Yeah.
Hamill, Harrison Ford, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I met a guy who worked in Widemco, which I don't think exists anymore, but it stood for Walt Disney Media Company. Widemco, Walt Disney. Anyway, and he did a lot of productions for them, and they made materials for schools. And I said, I'm looking for someone that can do voices. He reached over and pulled out a tape. I think it was a little 5-inch box, reel to reel. Most of you don't know what that means, but
Freaking
but
millennials.
and I took it back to my office and I put it on my recorder, and I listened to it, and it was this kid. I'm serious, a kid named Corey Weinstein, and I thought, wow, he does like about 50 different voices, and it was just amazing. So I took the tape back to my friend and I said, this guy's great. How do I get in touch with him? He says, you think that was good? I said, yeah. He said he made that tape when he was 16 years old.
Oh my gosh. Oh wow. Oh,
So he gave me the Corey's number, and I found out Corey had changed his last name to Burton. So now he's Corey Burton. And do you know who that is? Yes,
No,
you do.
no comment.
No, 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 no. No, he was so good at mimicking
Right.
people that,
I miss him. That's all.
after Paul Frees had left the planet, he took over doing Paul Frees's voice for some of the rides at Disneyland, including the Haunted Mansion Holiday show.
Yeah.
And he does the voice of Captain Hook because he sounds just like Hans Conried. And so he did all these amazing voices for me. And I said, well, I've got to do all these records. Do you have friends that could help? He said, oh, yeah. I'm taking a class from a guy named Dawes Butler,
Oh wow.
who's a legend, at Hanna-Barbera.
Yeah.
And he did Huckleberry Hound and all these
And
voices.
Yogi Bear and everyone else.
Yeah, exactly. So he said, do you want to come to one of the classes? Okay. So I went over to Dawes Butler's house, and we sat in the basement, and he held his class. And I noticed 2 or 3 people there, and Corey introduced me to them. And one of them was a guy named, one was a gal named Pat Paris, and the other guy was Tony Pope. And I think Linda
Tony
Gary
Pope.
was there as well. And so he said, we should be able to cover all the bases with these people. I said, okay. And I had to book some time at a real studio in Hollywood, because everything I'd done up until then was done at the college level, in a meeting room with a microphone. And so I had to book this. You sure you want to hear all this? Because it's just
Yeah,
horribly
because I
boring.
got something to show you after you finish the
Okay.
story.
All right. So I heard about this studio in Hollywood called Radio Recorders, EMC Radio Recorders. And at one time, it was one of the most famous studios because where most studios, I'm talking about the old days, you had mono sound, which was all the sound got recorded on tape, 1/4-inch tape. One track, all you got was mono, monaural. And somebody figured out, if we put 2 heads on the recorder, we can record in stereo, a left track and a right track. Oh, what a breakthrough. We can listen to things in stereo. You notice I'm saying stereo instead of stereo, which is how
Well, it's
Michiganders say it.
stereo. We say that.
And then along comes EMC Radio Recorders, and they said, we have a 3-track machine that we've invented, and it has left, right, and center. So if you are Frank Sinatra and you want to have a big band orchestra behind you, but you still want to be heard, you can record on the center track. So all the big stars wanted to go to EMC radio recorders to record their albums. And so that's part of the reason why they're famous. But they also recorded a lot of TV shows. I think Alan Sherman's comedy records were recorded in their big studio. And I'm going to tell you some. Oh, I know. Stan Freberg, who is a famous humorist here, did his comedy records there. And so I'm very excited about this. It's like, wow, I've never been in a professional studio before. And I said, can I come over and take a quick tour before my recording session tomorrow? They said, sure. So I walk in, and there are these, typical narrow hallways with photographs of all the famous people that have recorded there. Mm-hmm. And then they took me into this big studio, and I thought, wow, this is great. Well, it was great in the 50s probably, but this was 1976. And I would love to tell you how brilliant the place is. It was so old-fashioned that when they shot the movie La Bamba, they needed an old-looking studio, and they shot the movie there. So if you've ever seen that movie, you know the studio I'm talking about.
Wow. Well, I haven't seen it, but I will check it out.
You did what?
I haven't seen the film, but I will check it out.
Oh, okay.
You make me want to look it out.
Okay. And so anyway, I'm like, whoa, this is great. This will be fun. And as I'm leaving my tour, I pass a guy coming in the building, and I recognize him. It's like, oh, I've seen this guy on television. And it was Hal Smith, who was the drunk on the Andy Griffith Show. And he used to come in and lock himself in the jail every night because he was drunk. And I thought, oh, that's cool. In fact, I'm going to be recording with him tomorrow on a project, right? But I didn't talk to him. I just, hi, walked out of the building. The engineer told me the next day that Hal said to him, who is that kid that I passed? And he said, oh, that's your director for tomorrow's session. He said, really? He looks like a child, fairly young looking. And he said, oh yeah, he's a child prodigy, 16 years old, which wasn't true. I was 26. But Hal said, wow, that's great. So anyway, I recorded with him, and Hal and I worked together on many projects, and he's a sweetheart. I'm trying to give you a reference point. I think he was the lead elephant in Jungle Book. All the elephants still marching along. Anyway, he did a lot of voice work and stuff.
Yeah.
So I ended up recording many story records at EMC radio recorders. By the time I was there, every other studio in town now had 16 tracks, and they didn't care about a 3-track studio anymore. But I had a lot of fun there, and I'm going to tell you an anecdote that just tickles me because it makes me look like an idiot. I wish I had props here, but I don't. Anyway, I was working with an engineer named Jay Antista, and he was a really sweet guy, and he really knew the business and stuff. And he would have to, if you imagine a tape looking like this, when you edit it, if you cut straight like this and butt the two pieces of tape together, you hear, you makes a noise.
Yeah.
So somebody realized, what we should do is we should cut at a diagonal like this. So you have this little piece of metal about this big. You lay the tape down in it, you cut it at an angle, you tape the two pieces together, and it goes, because it's not going over the heads all at once. It's going,
Yeah.
smooths it out.
Mm.
So I would say to Jay, "Oh, I need that line," because we would record all these things and do retakes and stuff. So he would take this piece of tape and he'd put a little piece of adhesive on it and he would stick it to the console board where we were working. And he was keeping track of what all these things were, right? I didn't know what he was doing, because I'm a complete novice. And so I'm sitting there and I think, what, we should put that dialogue right here. Do you think you can find that dialogue? Well, he knew what he was doing, but I didn't know what he was doing. So he had all these little pieces of tape taped to the console, and he would pick one up and he would run it between his fingers near his ear. He'd go like this. No, that's not it. He'd put it back. He grabbed the next one. No, that's not it. And I thought, how is he hearing this stuff? He finally picks up one. He goes, that's it. He tapes it in and it's perfect. And I thought, how can he do that? I want to learn how to listen to tape by running it past my ear. Well, of course, that's not what he was doing at all. I thought he was like had superpowers or something there for a second. And I did that kind of nonsense for 8 years. And I was at Disneyland Records as their A&R guy, artist and repertoire. I learned that's what it stood for. But it basically meant I was, the record producer. So
Yeah, that's fair enough. Wow. But that honestly sounds like so cool. And oh, he's gone now when he's back. Oh, it's a gold record.
I
Oh,
know I'm
nice.
trying to get it to not.
He's holding nothing. Oh, there we go. Hang on. I did see Disneyland. I saw Disneyland.
Okay, hold on. I gotta shut this thing off again. It's so annoying. And
Oh, it's just Mickey Mouse Disco. This is wow.
yeah, and the great thing about this is that uh, we sold 3 million of these, and
Wow.
I thought my song might be on here. I actually have a song on the record.
Oh, really? What, like you sung?
I wrote it, yeah.
Oh, you wrote it. Oh, right. Sorry.
It was brilliant. It was brilliant.
Wow. That's so
Um,
cool.
Hold on. We're gonna go back to the tropics. Okay, that's good.
Yay.
All right. So there's all the boring stuff about the music company.
Well, that was really
And
interesting, though. That was really interesting.
and then they gave me $1 million and I retired and I've
Moved to
been
Hawaii.
sleeping ever since.
uh,
No, what happened was 1984 was a time of unrest at Disney Productions, as well as other companies, because there was a I don't want to call it a fad, but there was this sort of thing going on where these young entrepreneurs would find companies that were in financial trouble. They would zoom in and buy up as much stock as they could, and then basically, own the voting shares of a company. They would own the company basically, and then they would wreck it. They would break it up and sell it off, all the assets, and that was called green mail as opposed to email. And green mail was they're going to come in and ruin this company. And here I was at the end of my record producing days, and I was kind of fed up with it after all that time. And I just thought, I'm going to lose my job, and who's going to hire me? And I was kind of frantic. And along come two brothers from Texas called the Bass Brothers. And they had some money and they said, we'll save your company, but you got to do a couple of things. One is you've got to get a new president CEO running the place. and you need a new financial officer. And they said, get Michael Eisner. He's working over at Paramount Studios, and he'll be your new boss. And get Frank Wells, who's
I
also
think you're going to say Frank Welker.
oh, Frank Welker. No, I'll tell you stories about Frank Welker. So Frank Wells came over, and they they turned the company around, which was great. They saved it from ruin. And the one thing that Michael Eisner did, which is a treat for me, I know a lot of people are not big fans of Mr. Eisner, but he wanted to start a new division called Walt Disney Television Animation, because there was no such company, there was no such division at Disney, because all their animation was done for motion pictures and whatnot. I mean, they had done some animation for TV, but it was like, one or two episodes of Von Drake and whatnot. So he invites all of us over to his house. And I think it was the first weekend that he was the president or the CEO of Disney. And I got invited because my boss, Gary Chrysler, got invited there. We were making a lot of money at the time because of Mickey Mouse Disco. And I think they said to Gary, bring along anyone that you think is creative. And so he took me along. And I remember driving up the hills of Bel Air to this secluded, gated community where Michael lived, and drove across the lawn, parked near the kitchen. I didn't know where the front door was. And I went through the kitchen, and there's a couple of boys about, like, I don't know, 8 and 10 maybe, and they're in their pajamas eating cereal and watching TV in the kitchen. And I was like, why am I in the kitchen? It was the only door I could find. And I eventually got through to the living room, and that's where everyone was meeting. And so Mr. Eisner said he wanted to start this new division, and he wanted ideas. And everybody had something to throw out there. How about we do this? How about we do that? And I think he'd already made up his mind what he wanted to do. And he wanted to create this TV division, and he wanted to create shows and sell them to the networks. And I think he did that because he used to work for ABC. So he said, yeah, let's create some shows. And we had one idea. Are you sure you want me to tell you this stuff?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. We had this idea, which was kind of clever, where there was this place called Jumble Isle, like island, like this palm tree here.
Yeah.
And on Jumble Isle were these animals that were a combination of two animals, a rabbit and a deer or something. And we had developed all this stuff, and Michael thought, yeah, that would probably make a good show. And eventually we found out that there was a toy company that was actually doing this, and they called their show the Wuzzles. So we ended up saying to them, we've got a show very similar to your property, because they were making dolls at the time. And we said, how about we just take all your designs and do it as an animated show, and it will help you sell toys, and it will help us, and blah, blah, blah. Okay, great. So we've got that show.
Yeah.
But this other show, it's like, what are we going to do? So I'm sitting on the couch, which I seem to remember as an L-shaped couch. And I'm sitting just to the right of Michael Eisner. And I'm kind of in awe, because it's like, I'm used to dealing with, low income people like Corey Burton. And and
Don't laugh, I'm sorry.
so here I am with the CFO and the CEO of Disney Productions.
Mm-hmm.
And Eisner tells this story, and he's talking to the room. So he's not looking at me. I'm sitting in his blind spot.
Yeah.
And he says, my kid went to camp and he came back and all he could talk about was all the kids are eating this candy called Gummy Bears. Right. And I said, yeah, I know what that is. Right. And he just said, kids just love this stuff. I said, yep. And he turned to me and he said, and he doesn't know me from Adam. And he turned to me and he said, make me a show called Gummy Bears. Okay. What am I supposed to say? No, come on, let's duke it out, So
I want a candy corn instead.
yeah. So everybody nods and yeah, Gummy Bears, great idea. And after the meeting, we all drive down the hill. We leave Bel Air, drive down the hill to Westwood, and go into a coffee shop and decide, let's talk about this meeting we just had with Michael Eisner and Frank Wells. And it was pretty much agreed that it was a completely stupid idea because, how do you do a show about characters that get eaten all the time? It didn't make any sense. So I think we all kind of agreed that, you know what? He's a really busy guy. He's got a whole company to get up and running. He's never going to remember this. Okay. So I go back to my duties as a record producer and I don't give it any more thought. And about a week or two later, my phone rings and it's Eisner's secretary. And she says, Jym Magon? Yes. Michael Eisner would like to speak with you. Okay. I pick, hello. And he goes, oh, hi, Jim. How's my show coming along? And of course, what I should say is it was a really stupid idea and we all thought it was stupid and we did it. And I say to him instead, it's coming along great. Wonderful. I'm typing right now.
Yeah.
And he says, great. I want to see something soon. Okay.
Yeah.
And I immediately start trying to think of what to do with the gummy bears. And so I went with this candy motif. Have I ever shown you any of this artwork?
I don't think you have, no. He laughed so hard he laughed away for a second.
So we have all these gummy bears and they're just generic little pudgy things.
Yeah.
And I thought it'd be fun if all their names rhymed with ummy.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least sort of like Gruffy Gummy and,
Yeah. Yeah.
So I thought, what if there's this traitor gummy bear and his name is Scummy Gummy? And he works for the bad guy who is called Licorice Whip or something like that.
That's cool.
Yeah, cool, except for the fact that it's all candy bozo stuff,
Yeah.
And we got hold of some artists to draw this up. I just, I told you the whole story about the Peanuts stuff.
Yeah.
And that was the studio, and all you saw was acoustic tile with holes in them,
Yeah.
That's the studio. Woohoo!
Yeah.
So I have a picture of Licorice Whip and Scummy Gummy, which of course never made it into the TV show. And I will send it to you if that's what you would like.
Yes, please.
Yes. I'm not going to look for it now because it'll just waste a bunch of time.
That's fine. That's fine.
So I typed up this idea, and mostly what they were interested in was copywriting the name.
Mm-hmm.
Disney's Adventures of the Gummy Bears, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. And they needed some artwork to put with the copyright. And so they were just these generic little frumpy bears,
Yeah.
eh, that were not like our bears at all. But it's what they used in order to get the show, locked in. And then it was time to actually, make the show, start developing the show. And it was just me at the time. And they hired a office manager named Michael Webster. Michael was not a fun animation type guy.
Yeah.
He was very buttoned down and, tie and let's go have 3 martinis for lunch and that kind of a guy.
Yeah.
And so he got hold of this fellow who had just finished directing a movie called Gallivants, and he had worked on TV shows and whatnot. And the kid's name was Art Vitello. And he brings Art Vitello in and calls me over. We have no offices then either. I'm still at the music company. And they stick Art Vitello in this empty room in the Brighton building. And Michael Webster says, Art Vitello, this is Jym Magon. Jym Magon, this is Art Vitello. You guys are now married. Bye. And he leaves. Okay. And I thought, okay. So Art and I just start chatting. And because he has an animation background, he says to me, what do you like? What have you seen? And I tell him, oh, Warner Brothers and Disney and all that stuff. And he says to me, have you ever seen any of the Miyazaki films from Japan? And I said, never even heard of them. He says, okay, I'm going to sit you down and make you watch 2 movies by Miyazaki, and then we'll talk. Okay. You know who Miyazaki is, correct?
The name sounds familiar.
Okay. Did you ever see My Neighbor Totoro?
Yes, I know who he is now. Yeah, 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 yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So this is a guy who just gets it in his head. He wants to do this film, and he storyboards everything and he draws everything, turns his crew loose, and next thing they've got this feature film.
Yeah.
And so I watched 2 movies by him, and I'm astonished because he loves putting people up in the clouds and in strange airplanes, and he just loves motion and animating grass in the wind and all that stuff. And I finish it and I say to Art, this is astonishing. I love this stuff. He says, okay, this is what we should do for the Gummi Bears. I said, okay, we're never going to do anything that looks like that, but we had that in our heads. And we began talking, and I think it was Art said, look, Disney was famous for taking Western European fairy tales, Cinderella, Snow White, and turning them into features. Let's do something similar. Let's take sort of a medieval, Western European setting. And so, it's like, okay, I've been to England. I know what it looks like.
Hey.
Aye. And we went from there and started creating these characters. And I'm telling you this because you'll appreciate it so much. We started getting these drawings of these characters, and we were still kind of in a candy mode. So there's a little pink gummy that is Cubby Gummy, and we called him Bubble Gummy. Okay. And then we had oh God, we had some French chef type of character
Called
named
Yummy Gummy? Yeah.
Yummy Gummy. And then there was some kind of bozo clown jester character named Dummy Gummy. And so we've got all these things created, and we take the artwork into NBC, who had bought the show, and said, what do you think? No. And it was run by these women over at daytime programming at NBC. Sorry, did I say ABC?
No, you said that
NBC.
NBC.
Yeah, NBC. And they look at it, and the first thing they say is, "Where are the females?"
We need representation.
And we all did
Well, not
this.
bothered, but you know. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll fix that instantly.
Could have just made some of the females, to be fair. Oh my god.
Well, so what we did was we took the French chef and turned it into Grammy Gummy.
Yeah, baby.
And then we created Sunny Gummy,
Mm-hmm.
who's the little teenager girl.
Yeah.
And we got rid of the jester. And we had to change Bubble Gummy's name to Cubby Gummy. And then we had this wizard named the Grape Gummy, which was a horrible name, and changed that to Zummy Gummy.
Mm-hmm.
And came back and said, "Here's the new cast." Okay, fine, you know. And then we just started, gathering stories and pitching them to NBC, and they do this. Okay, that, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I had never written a TV script or any professional script in my life. So here I am as story editor on this new series with the name Disney on it that's going out on NBC Saturday morning. Okay. What's the old phrase? Earn as you learn,
Yeah.
And the sad part is that I'm doing this while I'm still at the music company. And I realize I have to hire someone to take over my duties as a record producer.
Yeah.
And I hired Ted Crisco, who you saw in that photograph.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, Disney has never had a TV show before devoted to Saturday morning cartoons.
Yeah.
Ever. So CBS has bought the Wuzzles. NBC has Gummi Bears. They each have a precious thing from Disney. And in their infinite wisdom, they put them on in the same time slot.
Different networks.
Why? So
yeah, and different networks because what?
Different networks.
I thought Gummi Bears was on ABC, not NBC. Was it?
It may have switched over, and part of that is because Disney acquired ABC.
Oh yeah, it was NBC, and then Wuzzles was on ABC.
Oh, was it? Okay.
I think so.
CBS was out of the picture.
Oh no, CBS had the Wuzzles.
Yeah, Judy Price. Okay.
So you confusing with all these things. I mean, you got them, and then in the UK we got blooming BBC and ITV and everything. I'm like, make it stop. But yeah.
We only had 3 channels back then. You had BBC One and BBC Two and ITV and
Channel 4.
So anyway, because I'm so anal, I'm sitting there with my hand on the dial, not a remote, my hand on the dial, and I'm going channel 2, channel 4, channel 2, channel 4. I'm going back and forth. And sure enough, the Gummi Bears premiered like 1 second before the Wuzzles did. So Gummi Bears is the first show on Saturday morning by Disney.
Yeah, baby. Oh my gosh. And well, I'm having a look. It said that Wuzzles was actually a bigger success in the UK. It said the first episode aired as the theatrical featurette in 1986 alongside a re-release of Disney's Bambi. And also, I think the episode Faster Than a Speeding Tommy was the same thing, but that was season 2 of
No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, Wuzzles and Gummi Bears was screened on the same channel, ITV, in 1985, 1986. Therefore, both series enjoyed high popularity.
Yeah.
Yeah, but different time slots, obviously. So yeah.
But the thing is that in the United States, these major networks, it's like, well, we want new shows, and so they would take things off that weren't doing well in the ratings, that kind of thing. So we didn't get to see a lot of stuff the way I think you did in Great Britain. Um, and I can give you all the backstory on that, and
Hmm.
you'll be bored. But basically, we decided that instead of taking our shows and licensing them to these major networks, why not sell them in syndication?
Yeah.
Which means that there are in this country all these different little pockets of local television stations, and some of them are owned by someone who owns three different markets: Baltimore, Detroit,
Mm.
Tampa, and that's their syndicate. So when you sell to the syndicates, you're in syndication,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And because of that, no one is telling us what to do or not do. No one is giving us notes about these kids should not be poking knives in their eyes, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, so we left the networks and went to syndication. And the first show that went to syndication was a show called DuckTales. And it was immensely popular, immensely popular.
You know who Tad Stones is, right?
Yeah.
I had him on the show. I got him for my show. I think he did DuckTales. Like, might be wrong. Probably not. No, 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 no. You developed DuckTales, didn't you? Yeah. He developed. No, he developed Rescue Rangers. Yeah,
Yeah.
and Darkwing. Yeah.
Do you know who he developed it with?
Who did he develop the chip? Yeah, yeah, it was you. Oh
Yeah.
wow! I didn't know
Yeah.
that. Oh wow!
Yeah.
Wait, let's
I,
have a
I
look.
was surprised to find all of this stuff I'd written,
It says,
early on.
"Oh right, that's so cool!" Like, I didn't know that because you're not credited on the Wikipedia page. Sorry, a little
Yeah.
upset. Yeah. Um.
Yeah. But anyway, after Chip and Dale got approved and went into production,
Yep.
uh, I didn't stay on the show. I moved on to Winnie the Pooh and stuff like that.
Ah.
And again, I could just bend your ear for days about this stuff, but at a certain point, uh, one of the popular things in this country was when we're going to kick off DuckTales.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're
Yeah.
not just going to show an episode and an episode and an episode. We're going to kick it off by showing a 2-hour movie in prime time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like an
How do
introduction to
you?
the series, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Here you go. What I
So,
mean.
so they wanted a story that explained how the nephews left Donald and went to live with Uncle Scrooge and went on this huge adventure. And I was the guy in charge of making that miniseries, 5 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And we would cut them together and make a 2-hour movie
Yeah.
out of it. Show it in prime time. Everyone goes, yay, yay, yay.
Yeah.
And the show, off it goes. I think I did 3 or 4 miniseries like that for DuckTales, making movies.
Yeah.
And so when Rescue Rangers came along, they wanted to do the same thing. They wanted a movie to kick it off.
Yeah.
And so Tad and his team put together this 5-part miniseries. And I can't give you the politics on it, but for some reason, I think they wanted me to come in and fix it,
Yeah. Yeah.
which I'm sure did not please Tad. But I took over story editing, the 5-parter,
Mm-hmm.
and then I wrote a couple of episodes and story edited a couple of episodes. So I ended up actually working on the series near the end. Um, Here's the thing, and you gotta bear with me. Seriously.
That's okay.
No, 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 no.
Oh, okay.
When people say, what's your typical day like? There isn't. There's no such thing as a typical day. You come to work, right?
Mhm.
And I got to get this script done, and I got to go record this on Wednesday, and blah blah blah. And then somebody comes in and says, "Drop all that. I want you to now fix Rescue Rangers." Oh Jesus. And and that's what would happen, is that you kind of bounce around. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
So so that's sort of what we did. Is one of the story editors would come up with a show and say, "This is my show. This will be the next syndicated series. 65 episodes of this show." Right? Okay. So we had DuckTales, then we had Rescue Rangers, and I think they wanted to do something similar with Gummi Bears, so they added more episodes.
Yeah.
Uh, they had new story editors by then. And then they finally said, "Jim, we need a new series." Okay. Well,
Mhm.
the hot movie at the time was Who Framed Roger Rabbit, where you have the human world and the animal animated
Yeah.
characters.
Yeah.
And it was immensely popular. And so we said, well, what if we did something similar where we take all of the B players, the people that were in cartoons years ago, or maybe did 2 or 3 movies and then were put out to pasture.
Yeah.
So we came up with this idea that Baloo the Bear, voiced by Phil Harris, who was also Little John in Robin Hood, and
Yeah.
was Thomas O'Malley the Alley Cat in the Aristocats. So here I've got Baloo the Bear, and now I
Mhm.
need a sidekick. And we can't use Mickey Mouse. So we create this character called Ricky Rat, who is Mickey's cousin. And he can't understand why he's not as popular as Mickey.
Yeah.
And Baloo says, "Son, let me explain it to you. You're a rat. People don't like rats." Okay. So basically, it was Baloo and Ricky trying to get jobs for their friends like Clarabelle Cow and Horace Horsecollar. You know, let us do a Western, let us do a musical, let us,
Yeah.
and so, and so every week they were annoying this fictitious character who heads up our studio called Michael Eisner. And they're constantly saying, "Let us do something." You want to pause this for a second? So I've got this show, and it's called B Players. It's about all these,
Oh. Oh. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
run of the mill characters. And I pitched that, and I pitched it, and I pitched it. And what I'm pitching to is Michael Eisner, Frank Wells, and Jeffrey Katzenberg,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And every time I go in to pitch it, there's a lot of this. They're not they're not getting it. It's not
Yeah.
moving, right?
Oh. 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 Let me
And
get.
finally, Jeffrey Katzenberg says to me, and he'll never remember this, but it's true. He said, "Jim, if you say B Players one more time, I'm going to throw you out that window." Which basically is a nice way of saying this project's dead.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when it's dead, that means there's no 65 episodes coming up. There's no reason to keep everybody employed. They're going to have to fire most of the division.
Yeah.
And Michael Webster, who I told you about before, stops by my office and says, because he was at the meeting, at the pitch meeting, he says, "If you don't come up with something really quickly, it's going to be tumbleweed city around here. Just
Yeah.
nothing. Nobody here, just tumbleweeds." And
I
I
can't do
thought,
a cricket. Frank Walker can do a cricket. Yeah, I can do. Oh man, I'll have to ask him to do a cricket for me so I can just have it like as my little ringtone or something, or just
yeah,
as
exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
He, if we ever have time, I'll tell you about Frank Welker being in one of the DuckTales movies. But
Oh, you could tell me after this story if you want.
No, you don't want to hear.
Oh,
It's
really?
so anyway, I'm sitting
Jim,
here
come on.
destitute because everything I've worked on has been killed, and I'm frantic. So there's two things that pop into my head. Number one, I really like Baloo. He's a great character. He's
Mm-hmm.
funny.
Yeah.
He's what they call a jungle bum, you know?
Yeah.
And secondly, when we originally developed DuckTales, there was a character named Launchpad Mcquack.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, Launchpad did not work for Scrooge McDuck. He was a freelance air courier service, right? And Scrooge comes to him and hires him to, you know, move a sand dune or something,
Yeah, yeah,
and which is an impossible task, but they figure it out, they pull it off. But then they killed that. They said, no, let's just have him work as a pilot for Scrooge. I'm like,
yeah.
okay.
Uh-huh.
So I thought, well, what if Baloo was this freelance courier pilot, That might be fun. So I call my buddy Mark Zaslav in from his office, which is 2 doors away, and I pitch him this idea. And I said, what do you think of this? And Mark and I just really click. And so he would say, well, what about this? And I'd say, oh, yeah, what about this? And next thing you know, we're developing this show called TaleSpin. And I'm tickled with it because, I love Baloo. I love the fact that he had this little boy, Mowgli, you know, uh, from Jungle Book. And I
Yeah.
said, we need a little sidekick character, which became Kit Cloud Kicker. And we never planned on doing Jungle Book, but it was like, King Louie is a funny character. Let's put King Louie in as a, ape who runs this watering hole on an island in the middle of
Yeah.
the ocean.
Yeah.
And we actually brought in Shere Khan, as the
Yeah.
bad guy.
Yeah.
And um, I'm very jazzed about it. And we have some things drawn up. And I take the artwork with me and I said, I want to pitch you a new show. It's called TaleSpin. Here's the good guy, here's the bad guy, here's the, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I get this. And there were only two answers back then. One is I'll throw you out the window, or it's a home run, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So they declared that it was a home run. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Okay. We have to do 65 episodes in a very short amount of time. And the only way to do it was we created 4 production teams. That was each team had a story editor and his writing group, a director,
Yeah.
producer, and his art group, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's 4 of these teams.
Yeah.
And guess what? We have to turn in 2 shows per week to make our schedule. So
Oh.
each team would turn something in and then back off and work on the next 2 while the other 2 teams are saying, and we've got the next 2, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I spent a year and a half of my life working on that show. And
Must have been the best year of
I
your
was
life
burned
then.
out by the end, but it's one of my favorite projects. I really like TaleSpin. So, and it was a big hit, and it was decided that instead of just putting it out there as a syndicated package, why don't we put together, and you're not allowed to say this at the time,
Mm-hmm.
a block of shows.
Yeah.
And we had a block called the Disney Afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
And it would start with half hour of the Gummi Bears, half hour of DuckTales, half hour of Rescue Rangers, and this brand new show called TaleSpin in the last slot. And that's how TaleSpin premiered as the sort of gem in the Disney Afternoon. Wow, this is great,
Yeah.
and that kind of continued for 2 or 3 more shows, and then the Disney afternoon kind of evaporated. But can I tell you? Anyway, it was fun. There was some heartache at the end, to the point where I think I finally said, and we're done. We've recorded all the shows. They're all in production and everything. And Gary Kreisel says to me, my son doesn't like Rebecca Cunningham, thinks she's mean and spiteful. I said, okay, what about it? Well, we may have to completely recast it. We'll do a focus group and we'll get some. I said, I personally picked Sally Struthers for this part. She agreed to do it. We recorded 65 episodes with her. I am not going to go back and re-record this whole series because your brat, your child, doesn't like her. And I said, that's what you want to do, Gary. You're president of this company. You do whatever you want. It's your show now. Bye. And I took off to England for 3 weeks on vacation. And I was fed up. I come back from vacation. Guess what? Sally Struthers is Rebecca Cunningham and everything's fine.
Yay.
Well, thanks for making me miserable. That was a great thing to do,
Yeah.
So I'm going to back up now and tell you the Frank Welker story quickly.
Before you tell me, I've just did a little bit of research, and it turns out there was a Walt Disney Animation England UK subsidiary for a little bit.
Really?
Yeah, it was based in Camden Town in London. It operated from 1986 to 1991. It was set up for the animation production of The Great Mouse Detective and Roger Rabbit. So Richard Williams, the famous animator, all of his associates from all over Europe would work on this. And then they worked on DuckTales, the movie, The Treasure of the Lost Lamp, and New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, and also TaleSpin. And then Summer 91, they closed down. So
yeah.
No,
it's very interesting because, as I said, the company was going to be wrecked in 1984. And Eisner came in and created this new division, and we were up and running by that point. So we went to so many different animation studios because animation to actually do feature animation at Disney here in the United States is too expensive for television. So, and people hate when I say this, but we would put it all together. We'd storyboard it and record it and time it and color it and design it, and then put it all in a box and ship it to Japan or Taiwan or Korea. And they would animate this stuff. Well, when I wrote a Goofy movie, it was animated all over the world, France, Australia, lots of different places. And so I have a t-shirt that talks about, on the back, it shows Powerline, the singer, and it says Powerline's World Tour, and it has every one of the cities.
That's so cool
that it was animated in.
That's so cool. I'm actually meeting Jason Marsden and Bill Farmer in Telford this December. They're doing a convention appearance in England.
Wait, they're going to England?
Yeah.
Good, excellent. Please say hi to them for me.
I will do, indeed.
Because they hate me, and I want to kill them. No, I'm just kidding. Excellent. Well, no, have a blast. It's great.
Thank you.
Okay, now on to my wonderful story.
Got a monocle. Ignore me, just fiddling around. Your Frank Welker story. What if we could finish off with the Frank Welker story?
Yeah. So every time we would introduce a new, major character. Again, BVT, Buena Vista Television, said, "What are you doing? What
monocle?" What are you doing? Okay.
I'm doing a monocle. I'm a
Monocle.
cat.
Monocle. Yeah, yeah, sorry, I'm fully focused.
Jesus. And this is Thor. Okay.
Oh, that's cool.
So
Frank Walker.
when we started DuckTales, they
Yeah.
wanted a movie to kick off the series. Great. Well, next they wanted to introduce a character uh, called Bubba Duck. And Bubba Duck is this little caveman,
Mm-hmm.
right, who has a pet dinosaur.
Yeah.
And they wanted a movie to kick this off. So I wrote this 5-part. When I say I didn't write it personally, I mean I was involved with the whole thing, but basically it was my baby to get this thing done. And Frank Welker comes in, and we said we need someone to do the voice of this little cave duck who doesn't speak English, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, blah, 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 kind of thing.
Yeah.
And Frank says, "Yeah, I can do that." And oh, and by the way, he has a dinosaur pet.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I can do that too. So he does both these voices in this movie, right? And he just cracks me up. He's a very talented man. And oh, I was going to tell you something. He was a stand-up comedian before he got into doing
It was
voice work.
indeed, yeah.
Well, we had a show called Make Me Laugh. I think that was the name of it.
Mm-hmm.
And they would bring out a contestant, some bozo off the street,
Yeah.
and then they would sit them in front of these comedians. And these comedians would do their best material trying to get this bozo to laugh,
Yeah.
make me laugh. And he was one of the comedians on this show.
Oh wow.
And and oh, I was going to tell you something about him. Oh, I know. This is there was a very popular show in this country called Muppet Babies. And obviously the people that did the voices for the Muppets were too busy doing their real jobs to do voices on the
I think
show.
it's
So
due
they
to budget costs or something. Yeah, I did. I watched the video that Defunctland did about it.
had so one of the people they cast was Frank Welker,
Yeah.
and he's supposed to play
Yeah. Baby
Kermit the
Kermit.
Frog.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So they go to a recording session early on, and Frank has never met Jim Henson before, and Jim Henson happened to be there. And he says to Jim, "So tell me, how'd you come up with this Kermit voice?" Right? And Jim says, I don't know. It's just kind of something I was doing. And Frank says, I realized that he is Kermit. He's not doing a voice, he's being Jim Henson. And it's like, okay, thanks, good tip. I'll work on that. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Oh, that's a really funny story. And what a good way to end off
that was
this.
hilarious.
Yeah, and a good way to end off this interview as well. We will definitely talk again in the future. Oh my God, I thought it was a chicken then because the head was cut off.
It is a chicken.
Oh, that's so cool. It was one of them little
Um,
boblets.
no, I honestly I could go on forever. You have to tell me, because we are, of course, very close friends,
Yeah,
and what we dated for 4 or 5 years,
yeah,
and
yeah.
um, are you how are you going to use this interview?
Well, you know, I'm gonna use. I'm gonna edit it, stick it on YouTube.
Okay, everything I said is off the record. You can't use any of it.
Okay, that's a shame. I'll just stop recording there then. Jim, where can we find you on social media? I sound a bit like Kermit there. I don't know why. Yeah,
Yeah, you sound like Kermit.
I can't really do Kermit.
Come on, slate it. Let's tail slate this thing. You
Hey,
don't want
Kermit,
to.
I'm just Kermit the Frog. I can't really do Kermit. Where can we find you on social media, Jim? Yeah, well, like with you on Twitter, you're on
Okay.
Instagram, you're
No,
on. You have a
let me throw this
website.
out there. I am on Facebook,
Yeah.
which teenagers don't use.
Yeah.
And
Well, I'm an adult,
I'm
so
listed as Jym Magon, but I
yeah.
also have like my professional Facebook page, which is Jym Magon Presents. Okay.
Yeah.
So you can go to either one of those, and I have slightly different material on both sites. So yeah, people can find me there. And also, if you go to jymmagon.com,
Mhm.
you'll find my blogs, I think,
Yeah. Cool.
which I
It's
haven't written in years, but that's okay.
nice to look back at though, isn't it?
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you some artwork.
Hmm.
And did anybody give you grief over the Bill Scott documentary? Like, why are you showing that picture? And where did you get?
Oh, no, not at all.
No,
No.
okay.
Why?
Okay. Because some of the things that I'm going to send you have never been officially released by the company.
Okay.
But
I won't release them.
you you won't what?
I won't release them. I won't put that out
Well, how are you
publicly.
going to? If I send it to you and we talk about it, and then
Oh, right. So you want? Okay, okay, all right, okay.
so put it in. That's great. If they say this is horrible, why did you put this in there? Who gave this to you? You just say, I don't know.
I found
I
it.
Googled it. you know.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So
Indeed.
there's my small tirade. Um,
Nice.
yeah, so let me send you some stuff and you can
Okay.
use it as you wish.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and hopefully it won't interfere with the brilliant memoir I'm going to write about my brilliant time at Brilliant Disney.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, indeed. To you at home, thank you for watching this interview with me and Jym Magon. Go visit him on social media. And as always, thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay happy, be kind to yourself. Thank you for watching. Bye. And
that was it. Oh,
watch.
okay.
Yeah.